Just talk about what's new here. Is it the pace at which they're doing it?
So we've known for some time that Apple would be moving away from Qualcomm for its cellular modems, right? Now the cellular modem, the Qualcomm chip, is what allows the phone to connect to data networks. So you can make phone calls, connect to the internet, download apps, email, basically do whatever you need to do when you're away from Wi-Fi. So we've known that. We also now know, to your point, the timing of that. That's going to be end of 24, early 25. It's going to start in one iPhone model, take about 3 to 4 years for that transition to actually occur. Now, the main new piece of information is, in addition to working on its own cellular modem, Apple's working for the first time on its own Wi-Fi chip. So that's the Broadcom component that allows the iPhone and its other devices to connect to Wi-Fi. And this is actually a combined chip, so it also lets the phone connect to Bluetooth as well. So it's the component not only for cellular from Qualcomm that they're working on, but the component that also allows you to connect to wireless and Bluetooth. So they really want to own the entire wireless stack inside of its products.
Mark, how therefore is the relationship between the two companies? What are executives saying about bracing of a future relationship?
Yeah, so the Apple-Qualcomm relationship has been, dwindling down for some time. Qualcomm has publicly said the last few years that it expects for Apple to design them out of its products. Remember, there was this major lawsuit over patents and royalties. Apple settled that because it really needed a 5G phone with the iPhone 12 in 2020, and there was no way to come to market with a 5G device unless they used Qualcomm. So they needed to come to, I believe it was a 6-year licensing agreement and a 4 or 5 year supply agreement at that time for the Qualcomm modems inside of the iPhones. Now for Broadcom and Apple signed a $15 billion deal a couple of years ago that expires at the end of this year. Right? And so that is also an indicator that there had been some trials and tribulations between the two companies. And now we know that it's pretty clear that Apple is also planning to design Broadcom out. But you look at any major supplier of components inside of Apple's devices, you can bet that Apple wants to work on its own in-house custom solution.
Mark, Kara and I had to completely rip up the script for the show today because you have broken one story after another. Your other scoop this Monday was that Peter Stern, who is the services VP, is leaving the company, leaving Apple, according to sources. Why is that significant?
This is hugely significant. So Peter Stern was a very quick riser at Apple. He's the brain, the driving force behind Apple's subscription business as part of its services business. He led the business side of Apple TV Plus, Apple Arcade, Apple News Plus, Apple Fitness Plus, as well as the marketing side of all of Apple's services. He spearheaded bundles for content within Apple TV Plus, the channels service in the TV app, but also the Apple One bundles. So he was really the brains behind this push in services that has made it one of the most important components of the company's overall business. Now he's leaving. What that's going to do is going to raise the profile of Oliver Schuster. He's the head of Apple Music. Now he's going to be taking on much of the responsibilities of Stern. And you can really probably shoe in Schuster at this point as the eventual successor to Eddie Q, who, as we know, is the person behind all of Apple services and has been a top executive, a very senior lieutenant, a top 3 to 5 person at Apple under Steve Jobs and now under Tim Cook.
Mark, I've just got back from CES Las Vegas, and you and I have written about this together in the past. Apple is never there, not normally in recent years at least, but there was a big discussion around AR, VR, and I noticed your newsletter, Power On, over the weekend, looking at 2023. This will be a big year for Apple in the realm of AR, VR, won't it?
So Apple's next big thing is a mixed reality headset. It's going to cost about $3,000. They've been working on this for about 7 years. They're going to introduce it sometime this spring, March or April timeframe, talk more about it at their developer conference in June, and then release it to consumers in the fall. So this is a big year for Apple in terms of AR and VR. And I'm sure you had suppliers who are working with Apple on components for that product discussing their plans at CES.
The price point, I mean, where we expected, 3,000?
It's an earth-shattering price point. It's going to be, let me do the quick math here, it's going to be about 8 to 10 times more expensive than the competing product from Meta. But it's also probably going to be 8 to 10 times better than that competing product.
Oh,
so
fighting talk.
It's really up to what consumers want to do with that.